This is Extra Paycheck Podcast, episode number 13.
You're listening to Extra Paycheck Podcast, where you will learn how to build and grow your own successful online business. Now, here's your host, Alex Soul.
Welcome to yet another episode of Extra Paycheck Podcast. This is episode number 13, and today's guest is Steven Daar from Conversion for Good. So today's show is dedicated to optimizing your conversion rates because, let's admit it, this aspect is very, very important one for all of our websites and online efforts. Enjoy today's show. Hey, Steven, welcome to the Extra Paycheck Podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Let's begin with you telling us a little bit more about yourself and about your business. What is that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a little bit of a long story in that it spans over, we're into like 5 or 6 years since I graduated from college. But basically what happened was I graduated and I had a finance degree. And I got hired by this huge company, one of the biggest companies in the world, massive insurance company. And they wanted me to sell retirement plans to school teachers, kindergarten through high school, secondary school. And I realized really quickly that the plans that they were selling were pretty rotten. They had really expensive fees that were unnecessary. The benefits that they were selling teachers on were almost guaranteed to never come into play and give the teacher any benefit. And I saw that this company that hired me, as well as a couple other massive corporations, dominated the market. Almost every teacher who had a retirement plan outside of their pension had one of these things. And so I realized there was an opportunity to help a lot of teachers get access to better information, help them save a lot more money, and avoid the negatives of these plans. Now, there were a couple problems. I was 22 and I looked like I was 17 or 18, maybe. Yeah. And I knew nothing about sales. I knew nothing about marketing. I just knew about finance. Like I knew about retirement plans and how to save, but I didn't know how to effectively get my message out. I didn't know how to sell it once I got in front of people. And I think I was battling some credibility issues when I was trying to tell teachers, don't listen to this massive multi-billion-dollar corporation. Listen to this one guy by himself who looks like one of the students that you teach. And so I realized pretty quickly that if I was ever going to be successful in that business, I needed to learn how to market and how to sell. And the internet was kind of an attractive place for me because I didn't have to show my face. It could just be my voice, or it just could be me writing. And that people wouldn't have to see my face and see that I was, a young person that they may or may not have put their full faith and confidence into listening to when they were face to face. So I started learning everything I could about how to drive traffic online, how to convert traffic into buyers, subscribers, customers, and then how to monetize traffic. So once you get that conversion, how do you get them to buy? How do you get them to buy more often in larger quantities? How do you get them to refer other people and grow kind of virally? And I just ended up being almost 2 full years of my life into, it was almost like I gave myself a self-study marketing PhD. And by the time I was really good at this stuff, I was broke. I had lost all my money trying to make this business work, and it was failing. And then it started to get a little bit of traction, but I was too far down. I was like in the hole. I had lost all my money. I had lost some money that wasn't mine. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go and get a job, normal 9-to-5 type job. Yeah. And I got a job with this marketing agency, digital marketing agency. Their clients were up to Fortune 500 level. And it really was like the best job I could have gotten because I drove millions of dollars in traffic. I got to run dozens of A/B tests, split tests, learn a lot about conversion optimization, and give myself a lot of practical application of what I'd learned because these companies had really large budgets. And then also be able to now say that I've worked and optimized and helped Fortune 500 companies grow. And so about a year ago, 16 months ago, actually, I left that job and started my own conversion optimization agency, which is what I'm running now, Conversion for Good.
Mm-hmm. That's conversionforgood.com for those listening. All right. So you started this, I'm not sure how to call it, a conversion agency.
Yeah, absolutely.
Would that be a good name for that?
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, so you started offering these services basically on your own without working for a company. So the question here is, weren't you scared that the same kind of thing would happen again that happened to you before, where you lost your time and your money and it just didn't pick up?
So it's kind of funny that I think we, and when I say we, I mean people, are really mostly afraid of the unknown. And so even if like it's a known quantity and it's not ideal or not what you would want, if you're familiar with it and you've done it before, then you're not really that afraid of it. Like, so the first time when I started my first business, I was too young and dumb to know any better. I was just going off of like passion and drive and thinking that I could help save teacher retirement, and that I just didn't really like, I thought I had such a good idea, such good information that there's almost no way that I could fail. And then I failed in every single way that you possibly could. And so then what happened was, when as a 22-year-old, 23-year-old, 24-year-old, and going through lots and lots of failure condensed in, a short period of time. And so I was losing money, and all of my friends had graduated and they were making money, and, like making real money for the first time in their lives, as opposed to, whatever jobs you work as a high school or whatever summer internships or summer jobs you get in college. You're making 40 to 90, $100,000 a year. And I was going the other way. And so, my friends are going out and going to dinner and like taking their girlfriends or their dates out to like nice places and buying things. And like, I was just stuck in like this complete scarcity mode where like every dollar, like I like really had to consider, like, do I want to spend this? And so I just had this like really, it really affected me negatively, like emotionally and like mentally. I certainly like fell into depression for an amount of time because I was like so frustrated that I really thought I had something that would work, and I know that like I'm smart and I'm talented and like I kept trying and I couldn't make it work, and so I was in debt and I was depressed and I was all these other things that not so great. And so you ask like, well, weren't you scared to go back to that, to make that like an option? But I think the way that I thought about it was that, so even though I didn't have a regular job, like I was out of the quote unquote job market for a couple years, I had taught myself so many valuable skills. I got 2 job offers within a week or two. Like when I got serious about saying, okay, I need to put this entrepreneurship thing on hold and like go get a real job to like get some stability and steady income and pull myself out of debt. And so I knew, so like I trusted that I had given myself valuable skills, and I knew that I was going to continue to grow my skill set, but also that during my time at this agency where I had a normal 9-to-5 job, I was able to pay off my debt. Like my depression went away. I was like really happy. I mean, I'd say my depression went away before I got that job, but I certainly like I normalized my life, right? And then I was able to look back and say, wow, even though I was at like this absolute like personal rock bottom, and that personal rock bottom doesn't really compare to a lot of people. I'm like, all things considered, I have like my bottom was like pretty cushy for like a lot of people, right? But like, like I'm just trying to say, like, I'm trying to be like, not like it was like, oh, it was all like the worst and I was like in the ditch or like in the gutter. Like, I still had a place to live. I was never like hungry. But to say like I was able to come from this personal bottom and recover and all that, it's like, okay, well, I know it's a known quantity, and even though it sucks, I know that I can survive and live and come back out of it, and that if things go sour, like I can get a job. So that's kind of like helped keep me from being really afraid. But certainly, I mean, it wasn't like smooth sailing in the past 16 months or so. And there's been times where I thought, maybe it would have been easier or better if I just stayed at my job, or that it was scary or really hard to like force myself to grow and challenge myself to keep on pushing and trying new things and expanding my capabilities as a leader, as a salesman, as someone who hires and manages people on my team. Like, those are all kind of like newer things or things I haven't done a lot of. So yeah, it's certainly been tough, but But no, I'm happy that I did it for sure.
Mm-hmm. And that personal rock bottom that you talked about, see, the thing is that a lot of people will never get to that personal rock bottom because most people, they are too scared to start something of their own and go into entrepreneurship or start a business, right? So I think it's kind of a good thing in a way because you learn some lessons, and when you recover, even by getting a job, right, you recovered and you understand that it's not all that bad. It happens. As you said, you didn't know any better. It was all an experience in the end, and I think in the future it helped you move forward to your new venture.
Yeah, and I mean, you hear a lot of entrepreneurs talk about their personal bottom or how they had to fail a bunch of times before they were able to succeed. And I don't think it's necessarily a requirement or a rite of passage or something that needs to happen, but certainly, I mean, the stats are out there that 80% of businesses fail within the first couple of years, and that the odds are against you. Even if you've got a great idea, even if you work hard, it's difficult to be successful. But I heard this quote recently, and I don't remember where I saw it from, but it was like, success is like controlled failing, just like walking is controlled falling. So like with each step, like I guess if you didn't have your leg out and you put your foot down, you'd fall on your face. And so success is kind of like a process of, and so like little kids when they're learning how to walk, they have wobbly legs and they fall, but like they keep getting up. And like I think it's almost kind of funny, like when we grow up and grow older, like we learn hesitation and fear, and we learn to quit, and like we learn all these other things where like a little kid, it doesn't care how many times it falls. It's going to keep on trying to walk until it walks. And then when it walks, it's got like the big smile on its face, and like you can't stop it from scooting around. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely not like a requirement, but I also think that it's almost like you could make the decision to say that today is like the new bottom that I'm going to push off of. So if there's something that you're not satisfied with, you can say that, and it could be in any area of life. It could be your physical health. It could be your level of success. It could be success meaning in business or with dating or relationships, or like whether it's romantic relationships or your relationships with your siblings, your mother and father, your friendships, how much energy and love you give to other people, and say, you know what, like what I've been doing in the past isn't working for me, or it's no longer acceptable, and say like today is going to be like the day that I push off this bottom. Like it doesn't need to be like the absolute worst situation that like you could be with, lying in the gutter with a heroin needle sticking out of your arm or something like that. But it just is the decision that like you are no longer satisfied with what is, and it's not always that dissatisfaction has to be the thing that fuels you, but it is a motivator to say that, this is how it's been, and I no longer am interested in having this be my reality in this part of my life, and commit to being and doing what you need to do and what you need and who the person you need to be to get what you want to have.
Yeah, totally. And it's a really great comparison that you just shared about little kids trying to walk. And see, like this kind of stuff is really like eye-opening when you think about it. Like, yeah, those kids don't know. Nobody tells them that they can't. Nobody tells them it's super difficult. So they just keep trying and they succeed at some point. And as we grow old, we completely forget about that. And we do the opposite, actually. And it's scary stuff, actually. All right, great. So let's dig a little bit deeper about your business. And since you are concentrating on helping businesses and helping people increase their conversion rates, I guess I'll be asking you a few questions about conversion rates and maybe some of more general advice. So do you think you could come up with 3 points that you see, let's say on websites, on small business or medium business websites, like 3 biggest mistakes that you see that would always bring down the conversion. And I know we can't apply to every single business because it's every single website and every single business is very unique. But I'm sure there's some things that you keep seeing over and over again that could be easily improved on any kind of website.
Yeah, and I mean, you totally hit on it that it's kind of difficult because there's so many different types of businesses out there, and every website is unique in that it's got its own design, its own value proposition. The business has its own offerings, services, products, and so it's almost impossible to give like blanket things like, I mean, some like things are you usually want to have your main conversion point and your main call to action above the fold with your button copy and your call to action. You'd like to have the copy. So something that I see that's wrong a lot of times is people have their website copy and the call to action stuff about what they're getting as opposed to what they're giving. So they're like, submit, or give me your email address, or let us put you on our newsletter, or stuff like that, as opposed to saying, get this free bonus, get this guide, get this, like, let us give you something like, what's in it for, everyone comes to a website and they're thinking, what's in it for me? What can I do here? And if they're not really immediately shown the value of staying on that website to them, they're going to click the back button. They're going to exit out. They're going to go back to Google and the million other results that the search engine gives back to them. And so really just almost like, because your website, business owners had probably a big hand in the copy and working with the designer to create it. And they're so intimately familiar with their business and their products and services that it's almost like the curse of knowledge, right? Where once you know something, it's almost impossible to remember what it was like to not know it. And so to be able to look at your website with fresh eyes, like completely fresh eyes, someone who knows nothing about you, nothing about your business, nothing about what you do, your case studies, your testimonials, or past results, anything like that, and saying, what do they care about? Why did they come here? What was their frame of mind that led them to the site, whether it was through an advertisement or through your organic listing or however it is that people come to your site, and think about, and even better. So I guess like this is going to dovetail into the three things that I'm going to say that I think are kind of general, but really the three most important things anyone can do. One is find people who are your ideal exact prospects and get them in the same room as you, or get them over Skype to screen share. And this is basically called user testing, where you're going to get users who are in your exact perfect demographic, and you're going to ask them, hey, give them a list of things to do on your site. Say, hey, if you wanted to download this, or if you wanted to buy this, like, would you know how to do it? And see, do they have any problems? Are they confused? Ask them, do you understand what this site's about? Do you understand the benefit and the value that being here gives you? And ask them, and also ask them, do you have any objections? Do you have any unanswered questions? And really get them to tell you what it is that, because they're going to open up and they'll tell you what is missing from your site or what they need to see more of, or maybe something you have like 2/3 down the page is really the most important thing, and you need to have that be the headline of the page. So user testing, and it doesn't need to be a huge number. You can get like a dozen people and talk to them and do like short interviews, and you're going to learn so much because you've got some blind spots, and your designer's probably got some blind spots, and only through active direct feedback is that going to be uncovered. So some user testing is huge. 2, I see so many websites are not doing any A/B testing, and that's a big thing that I do for clients. And so A/B testing, it used to be a really difficult thing to do online. It used to be expensive, and now my favorite tool for doing it is called Optimizely. Optimizely, They used to be, so they're a software as a service, and it used to be you had to pay monthly, and it was fairly expensive, but they just changed their model. So instead of having to pay no matter what, they now have a free plan, and then they've got an enterprise plan. So the enterprise plan is really expensive, but if you get less than 50,000 visitors a month to your website, which most small businesses do.
Totally, yeah.
You can get it for free, and it's really easy to install. If you've got a web dev person, any coder, even like your designer, It's really easy. It's like one line of code that you put in the head tag. If you've got WordPress or Joomla or any of those like CMS platforms, it's super easy to install via plugins or anything like that. And so if you've got less than 50,000 visitors a month, it's free and it's pretty easy to set up. And actually something I've been thinking about doing, I haven't done it yet, is to create like a short video course, probably for free or like for a super low cost, that would show people how to install it and then how to get their first test running, just so there's no intimidation. Like there's no reason why you shouldn't be running an A/B test on your site all the time. Just always running a test. So basically, if anyone's not familiar, really quickly, A/B test. So your website exists how it is. Let's just say your homepage. It's got, some copy, some images, a web form, a call to action, whatever. And so right now, everyone who comes to your homepage sees the exact same thing. But if you run an A/B test, what happens is you create one version of your homepage that's just a little bit different. Maybe you test out some different copy, a different image, different call to action, whatever it is, and you send half the traffic to the original and half the traffic to this new test version. And what happens is you track and measure which one is more effective at getting visitors to complete the main thing you want them to do on that page. So maybe on the homepage, the main thing you want them to do is join your email list. So you say, okay, I want to track how many people join my email list on version A and on version B. And so let's say the new thing that you created, like you use a new image that ends up being more persuasive or explains the value better. And now more people who come visit your site sign up for your email list on the variation. You make that change on your original, and so you've now beat your benchmark. You've now made your website, and every person that comes to your website now is that much more likely to convert and do what you want them to do. And then you create a new test. And so you're always just trying to beat your best. And it's almost like there's no reason why you wouldn't want to always be working towards higher conversion rates. I mean, it's such a huge leverage point. So yeah. A/B testing is 1, user testing is 2, and then 3, this one kind of goes along with user testing, but user testing is usually like live in person or like you're talking to them while they're using your site. This one is just surveying. And so you always want to know, you want to ask your customers, your subscribers, like all the time, like build it in to your sales process or your follow-up process, your sequences, whatever you have, to send them a survey or ask them to get on the phone and say, what's your biggest problem or obstacle or issue in regard to blank, whatever it is that your business does, and ask them, what's your biggest dream or ideal situation? Like, what does if this was perfect, or if you can wave a magic wand and make this better, what would that look like? And get them to describe and encourage them to be open-ended answers that uses like vivid descriptive words, like how it looks, how it feels, how it smells and tastes. And so they're going to tell you like exactly what this vision is of what they want, and they're going to tell you exactly what it is that they perceive as stopping them. And you could also ask them, what would the ideal solution look like? Would it be a training program? Would it be a physical product? Would it be whatever it is? And then you'll find out not only what they want and how they want it to be delivered, but also how to sell it to them and how to kind of paint that picture of what your product or service can do for them. So that, it's almost like when you're talking to them during the sales conversation, or they're reading your website, like the sales copy, or watching a video, they're like, wow, this person understands my problem so well. He probably understands it better than me. And since he understands it so well, I trust that he can help me solve it. And when you understand your customers on that level, then conversions become much, much easier. And I feel like a lot of people aren't doing those things to really tap into the brains of their customers. They kind of created their thing, and like, okay, here's this thing, and now I need to go sell it, as opposed to how can have that mindset of constant improvement, like the Japanese word kaizen, like constant small improvements of like, how can I get closer and closer and closer to making this product or service exactly what they want and communicate it as precisely and persuasively as possible. So those are the 3 things that I think, it's kind of general as opposed to like super specific tactics, but they really apply to most websites.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing this advice. And I know you're saying it's general, and it's somewhat general to me. But the thing is, we know about those things quite a bit, and I'm sure you know like a million times more than I do. But most people who are just starting, or who, let's say, pay a website designer and they take care of the marketing part, right? They don't know of the things and they don't think of them because although general, it's still something that you need to learn or hire someone like conversionforgood.com to do that for you. So, it's still not like a common knowledge, let's say. And even the two first points that you mentioned before giving these 3 points, having your call to action above the fold. And for those who don't know, above the fold means it's on your screen without you having to scroll down the page. This is crucial, and I'm not going to make up statistics and tell you how many, the percentage of people that don't do it, but there's so many websites that don't do it. And websites, I mean, like small businesses, they're actually trying to make money out of that website, or by having the website, they still don't do it. And you actually, you literally, as a client, you have to look for that call to action. You have to scroll down, and most people don't want to scroll down, especially if they come to a website and they're not given a proper direction, right? From the get-go. If they come to the site and they have to start looking around, where do they have to click and where do they have to go? Chances are people will just leave that website. So this is even more basic, and yet people are not doing it.
Yeah, for sure. And it's kind of exactly what you were saying, is that it's not the most intuitive thing in the world to understand what makes good design or good layouts, or you can spend years learning copywriting and still have like a ways to go in terms of being like truly expert. And so something that I was really bad at this with my first business. I think it was a huge contributor to me failing, is I was determined to do everything by myself. I was determined to learn how to do everything, and that I was afraid to give up any responsibilities, any of the work. I didn't think that anyone was going to do it as well as me, or they wouldn't care as much about my business as I did. But that really stops you from doing what you're really good at. So like if you think about what am I good at? What do I love to do? And where do I provide the most value? And then like who has the other skills that I need, my business needs? And there's people out there, the things that you either don't know about or aren't good at, there's people out there that are really good at it, who love doing it. And it's just a matter of finding those people who have that passion and that drive to do those things, and are going to be, a force multiplier. It's like if you add them, if you're 1 and they're 1, it's like 1 + 1 isn't 2. It's like 4 or 5, because not only is someone better at these things coming in and executing at a higher level than you would, but you're saving yourself so much time and energy and frustration, and you get to focus on the things that is in your zone of genius, so to speak.
Honestly, personally, I love doing everything, as in maybe not doing, but I love knowing at least the basics of every little part of my business. But often I am getting to the point where I'm like, well, I can't. It just takes time to do that. And it's time that would be better spent doing something else. So, sometimes it is not sometimes, I mean, it is always a great idea to find a specialist, someone who'll do that work, that, let's say, time-consuming work, especially for you, so you could concentrate on whatever you do best for your business.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I'm in the same boat as you. Like, even like now that I'm starting to be a lot better at delegating and giving up responsibility and tasks, like I still want to know, like, at least how to do pretty much everything, just in case, like, something happens and like I need to like do it, or to be able to communicate intelligently with someone. Like I even considered learning a little bit of coding just to be able, so I could talk to developers and like understand stuff. But like that was just a huge, massive undertaking. I was like, it's not worth like the time investment. But like I have that itch, right? Like I want to like learn it. I just want to know stuff. And so I think like one thing that I've started thinking about is, so this guy, this motivational speaker, Zig Ziglar, I've been listening to his tapes a lot recently. And he said something that I thought was really interesting. He said that you need to be before you can do, and you need to do in order so that you can have. And so I was thinking about it. It's like, okay, so think about like what you want to be. Like, do you want to be a CEO of a company? What size company do you want to be? Like, what do you want to, how do you want to spend your time? Like, and so if I think about it and like, so I think about CEOs of successful marketing agencies, like the CEO of the company that I worked for before I left 16 months ago. That company has 150 employees. They're growing. They just got a bigger office space. They have huge clients. And I was like, okay, so this guy's name is John. It's like, what does John do? Like, does John know how to run an A/B test? Does John know how to create a Facebook ad? Probably not, but like it doesn't matter because he's found really good people. And then instead of necessarily him needing to know how to do it, he found someone who's really good, and he created systems and standard operating procedures and documents and processes so that way it could be easily passed to another person. So if that situation came up where the person that you're relying on leaves or gets ill or, a million other things that could happen, like you're not just holding the bag high and dry. And so I'm thinking about how can I, and it might be for you, like, how can I leverage other people's knowledge? How can I leverage other people's assets? How can I leverage other people's whatever to then assimilate it and create it as an asset for my business, as opposed to me being the one who has to learn everything, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Totally, man. That makes a lot of sense, and I think it's really smart, and I think it will help out a lot in the long run. Especially I think a lot of small businesses and beginner entrepreneurs, they're also scared of the prices and the money they'll have to spend on outsourcing or hiring someone else. And that's also, sometimes it can be done for so much cheaper than we think, especially if you're starting and you need a designer or a coder for your business. Chances are you don't need him on payroll for 40 hours a week. You probably just need that person to dedicate maybe 5 to 10 hours a week for your business, right? So it's something definitely to think about. It will save you time and it will save you money and a lot of headaches in the long run. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, you're not going to go from solopreneur to 10 employees overnight. It's like, How do you take just small steps to make like 1% or 1 degree shifts until you get to where you want to be? And so it could be, so every time you do something that you do regularly, maybe you have a report that you run every week that just anyone in the world could pretty much do it if they had the right training. Or, there's something that is a regular process. What I've started doing, and I haven't done enough of this, but I think it's a good idea, is when I start doing these procedures, processes, whatever, I load up this tool called Snagit, which is a screen recording software. And so I record my screen and I narrate what I'm doing. So I say, okay, step 1 is this, step 2 is this, and here's where you go, here's the website, here's the login, here's whatever. And then I have a video at the end of it that if and when I hire someone and I say, okay, here's your list of responsibilities or tasks, here's each video that corresponds to each of these things, watch these videos to get training and then come back to me when you're done watching these videos. And we'll do it once together with you doing it and me watching it just to make sure you got it. And then once I trust that you've got it, then you own that process. And depending on, so like a good exercise that I love is if you took a piece of paper and you wrote a big T on it, like a capital T. So on the top left above the division, write down my tasks. And then throughout the course of a day or a week or a month or whatever, every time you do a task that you do fairly regularly, write it down and create that list. And then on the top right above the divider, write dollar per hour value for that task. So some tasks are going to be like $5 an hour tasks. Some are going to be $100 an hour tasks. Some are going to be, whatever. Just think about how important they are to you and your business and driving revenue and all those things. And then give yourself, as the owner of your business or as whatever role you have, give yourself a dollar per hour value that you'd say, ideally, I would never work and do tasks that are lower than this amount. So maybe you say $50 an hour. So anything that's under $50 an hour, that's like your hit list for things that you want to try and outsource and delegate. So maybe you want to start with like the least important, like least crucial things, but especially like ones that are less important but take up a lot of time. And you might even be able to find a VA, like a virtual assistant, someone in like Bangladesh or India or the Philippines who works for like $5 to $10 an hour. And so now instead of you spending your time on these low value tasks, just start giving out one or two to someone and see how it goes. And then, it's going to be scary, but take the plunge, invest $50 to buy 10 hours, 5 to 10 hours of a VA's time, work with them for a week or two, and just see how it feels to give it up. Do they do a good job? Are you able to train them and help them, if they don't do it right the first time? Are they teachable? Are they coachable? And also, like, I think the thing that you and I probably and many other people deal with is feeling that people aren't going to care as much about our business, or they're not going to do it as well. But I don't remember who said this, but it was like, if someone else does a task 80% as well as you would do it, that's a win because you didn't do it.
Yeah. That sounds about right. In episode number 7, I had Adam from freelancer.com. He's one of the international directors on freelancer.com, and he was giving a lot of examples of really incredible tasks being outsourced all over the world. And that too often it's not as difficult and as expensive as we may seem. And I think you also mentioned the same kind of strategy as you mentioned, having really, really specific way of doing things. As a video, I think works the best. This is the best way to go. And yeah, as you mentioned, if let's say you do hire someone part-time from another country through outsourcing, and you don't like the way they do their work, or if the person just stops, working for you, you don't have to spend months and months recruiting someone else. You just send the video to the next person that you think would be capable of doing the work, and there you go. And let's get back into your own business about conversionforgood.com. Could you tell us a little bit more about your clients and the kinds of businesses, I guess, that you work with, kind of clients that you help with their conversions?
Yeah, so Conversion for Good, it's got a bit of a double meaning, the name. So the two parts of it, one, the majority of the clients we work with, and not always, so it's not a requirement. Ideally, moving forward, eventually it will be 100% of our clients have a for good component to their business. So they have some give back, charitable, social component. So maybe they're like a buy one, give one type company. Like Tom's is a classic example. For every pair of shoes they sell, they donate a pair of shoes. Tom's is not a client, but they're probably the best well-known buy one, give one company. Or like they're 1% for the planet, or B Corp, or like a social venture, or they're a nonprofit. They have some part of their business, either big or small, that is dedicated to making the world a better place, alleviating suffering, making people's lives better, sharing, giving back, something like that. And then the other half of Conversion for Good, basically what happens is, so I talk about this in my book, Profit Hacking, is that a lot of people create their websites or their business and they're really focused on traffic. Like, I built this thing and now I need to get traffic to my website. I need people to come. And of course, yes, you need traffic. But what happens is if someone comes to your website, they come and then they either do something or they leave and then they're gone. And so that's like a commodity, like they get used up. But conversion is an asset. Like a website that converts about 2% of its visitors into a subscriber or a buyer is pretty likely to consistently convert about 2% of its visitors over time. And then if you make some improvements to that website and conversion rate goes up to 2.4% or 3%, it tends to stay at that elevated level because it's just like numbers game, right? Like, okay, this website is this good. And so for every 100 people that come in, it speaks well enough to 2 people that they take action. But now the website's better, so now 3 out of 100 go. And so once we elevate your conversion rates, they tend to stay there forever, for perpetuity. Like, so if you only work with us and pay us for like 3 months, 6 months, however long, you benefit for forever, for good. And so that's like conversion is an asset as opposed to a commodity. And that's why I think that a lot of people are sometimes misguided by focusing a vast majority of their time and energy and resources on traffic, and then they don't do the A/B testing and the user testing and the surveying, the things to increase their conversion rates, because the higher your conversion rate is, the easier it is to get traffic, because every visitor that comes to your site is now more valuable. So when each visitor that comes to you is more valuable, you can afford to spend more to get them there. So you can bid more in AdWords, you can bid more in Facebook ads, you might be able to hire a really good SEO team or a content marketing team, whatever it is. Because if a visitor comes to you and they're worth, $100, like you have no problem spending however much to get them there, because your site is so good at speaking to them and convincing them and persuading them to buy from you or interact with you. And so I think so it's not to say completely disregard traffic, because you need them both, right? Like if your website is the best at converting people in the world, but no one comes, then you don't get any benefit. But if you have like 1 million people come to your website and none of them buy or sign up or subscribe, you might as well have had zero. So it's not necessarily like, well, forget traffic, but it's more about thinking about, all right, how have I been spending my time in the past, my energy, my time, my resources, my investments, and how can I recalibrate that a little bit? So I'm actively working on both of them.
Yeah. So logic, but we don't think about it, that the higher your conversion rates, you do in fact make more money, and easier it is to spend that money on getting even more clients and people to your website.
Yeah, and
really,
sorry to cut you off. But even think about it this way. And so I don't really love this example because it's hard to visualize. So if the listeners are sitting at their desk or at a computer or something, and you want to just pop open, either just grab a pen and paper or pop open like a notepad or a spreadsheet, it might just be like easier to visualize. But if you want to like double the size of your business, or you want to double the amount of revenue you do online, and really so we'll simplify the example and say you only have 2 levers to pull, right? Like traffic and conversion. You can either get more visitors or you can convert a higher percentage of them into customers. Well, let's say you got 20,000 visitors a month to your website and you convert 2% of them into customers. Going from 20,000 to 40,000 visitors a month, which would double your revenue, that's like a big jump, right?
Yeah.
Like it's hard to get 20,000 visitors more, or if you got like 100,000 visitors, to double, you're going from 100 to 200,000. So it's not like, unless you have a big ad budget, you can just flip the switch and start driving a bunch of paid traffic to your site. Well, it's not so simple, because it took you from the day that your site was created to now to get the level of traffic you have now. So just say, let's just snap our fingers and double it. Like, it's hard. But I've seen over and over and over businesses, through just understanding their visitors a little bit better and writing better copy, creating a better design or a better layout, through just a handful of A/B tests, doubling their conversion rate. Or maybe not even necessarily doubling it, but getting a 30% lift, 40% lift. I do it for clients all the time. And so going from in our example, going from 2% conversion to 4% conversion will double your business as well. But you might just be a couple A/B tests away from getting it, as opposed to thinking about, oh my God, how do I double my traffic? So when you're dealing with big numbers, like thousands or tens or hundreds of thousands of visitors, your leverage goes way down. Because if you're getting 20,000 visitors, getting 200 more visitors is like a drop in the bucket. But when you're converting 2% and you go from like 2% to 2.5%, that's a 25% increase. Like, that is huge leverage. Like, when you're dealing with small numbers, like small percentages, increases are magnified. And it's like, if you go to the homepage of my website, conversionforgood.com, the top above the fold stuff is a calculator. So you put in how many visitors you get a month, your conversion rate, and then how much a conversion is worth to you. So your average order value or your average lifetime customer value or whatever. And it will tell you, based on your numbers, how much revenue your site is earning a month. And then it'll say, well, if you just converted a little bit better, here's how much you would earn. And it's shocking, like mind-blowing, how small increases in conversion can lead to significant increases in revenue.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at that exact calculator that you mentioned on your website right now, and I'm just looking here at the difference between, let's say, 3% conversion and 3.99, so almost 4% conversion. So just one difference percent in conversion rate. The money difference is tremendous. It's really huge, and I agree with you. A lot of people don't think about that way, and I didn't either. I mean, once again, it's logic stuff, right? But most of us do run after, okay, how do I get more traffic so I get more conversions? Where, well, I mean, it should be your goal to get more traffic, but I think split testing and improving your conversion rate goes far, is far more important, and it could be far more profitable than anything else.
Yeah, and so I again, like, I hate like throwing these mathematical examples because it's hard to visualize in your head. But so now we talk about on the calculator on the homepage, there's traffic, there's conversion, and then there's the economic side of it, like how much a conversion or a customer is worth. So if people are stuck in thinking about how do I get more traffic, even if they do a really good job and increase their traffic by like 30%, that is a 30% increase to their revenue, their bottom line, right?
Yeah.
Assuming everything else stands. But
yeah.
if you spread that effort out across the three things, the three leverage points of traffic, conversion, economics, and you increase your traffic by 10%, you increase your conversions by 10%. And when I say 10%, I'm not saying going 3% to 13%. I'm saying going 3% to 3.3%. So 10% increase to traffic, 10% increase to conversions, 10% increase in your economics. That's a 33% overall increase to your bottom line because it's geometric growth as opposed to linear. That might take some people back to like high school math, but yeah, I mean, you can look and see for yourself, like spreading it out and increasing smaller amounts across multiple points in your process is going to lead to a greater increase in your profitability than focusing it all on one of the three areas.
Yeah. Awesome stuff, man. Thank you so much for sharing. And we're actually past the 45-minute mark. So we'll end this episode with you sharing the best way for people to get in touch with you and to find out more about you and your company as well. Who knows? Hopefully somebody will sign up for your services.
Yeah. So I've got a book called Profit Hacking. If you just type into Google Profit Hacking Amazon, you should see it. The subtitle is The Web Entrepreneur's 3-Step Formula for Maximizing Success. That book came out in December. It's been number 1 on Amazon in marketing, web marketing, and e-commerce. So that book teaches you how to get more traffic, how to increase your conversions, and how to improve your economics, all three of the parts that we were just talking about. So I highly recommend that book. I think it's the best thing I've ever created so far. And then to talk to me about Conversion for Good, if you go to conversionforgood.com, there should be a button pretty early about scheduling a consultation. You can just fill out the form. That email will go directly to me. So even if you don't necessarily want a consultation or want to talk about my services, you just want to get in contact with me, fill that out and just write your message and it'll get to me and we'll be in touch.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Steven, so much for sharing all this information and for being on the show.
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me. I had a great time.
Thank you for tuning in for another episode of Extra Paycheck Podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And if you want to check out the show notes for today's episode, you could simply go to extrapodcast.com/13 as in number 13. This is where I'll be sharing all the links and resources that we talked about in today's episode. Also, if you haven't already, you could check out the show on iTunes. Simply go to extrapodcast.com/iTunes. You will also be able to rate and review the show on the same page, and I would really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much once again for listening, and I'll talk to you next Monday.